Hi everybody, just coming in prior to you listening to the episode. The audio for this episode isn't the greatest. I apologize for that, but obviously I still wanted to get this out to you. So yeah, with that being said, I'm just gonna put you into the episode now, but just wanted to warn you that the audio isn't the greatest, did the best that I could to kind of make it a little more palatable, but it is what it is, so bear with me on this one. But that's it for that. And let's start the episode now. Hey everyone, so we're going to be discussing Below Deck right now. So this episode, there was a lot that happened, and I want to try to make sure I tackle all of it because so much was going on. So we're kind of just do the same format we usually do, just kind of tackle kind of those main parts of the episode. But again, like I said, there's just so much going on in this episode that hopefully I don't forget anything. But the first things first, we kind of start the episode off right where we left off, which was with the anchor and the issue with the anchor. But unfortunately, with everything that they tried to do to, get this figured out or whatever, they ended up having to leave the anchor or drop the anchor so that they could get to dock, right? So by the time they kind of figured all of this out, the guests were like 3 hours late. There was no way in hell that any of them were making it to Paris on time. But, they at least kind of handled it really well. We'll kind of get to the tip meeting in a bit. But the thing, too, that Sandy mentions here is that the anchor, dropping the anchor for obviously these reasons, is a very risky thing to do because of the fact that it's an expensive piece of equipment for the boat. Obviously, this is the thing that you need to be able to anchor in place, right? Hence, anchor. And this is a $68,000 piece of equipment that you risk dropping because what they basically had to do is rig it up to one of the chutes. What's it called? It's not coming to me. The things that protect the boat when they're docking. Fender. Is it fender? Yeah, fender. And they ended up having to do that. So it's basically this floating thing that's obviously, an anchor or something that people are going to want to come back and get, right? Which means that any Tom, Dick, and Harry can just ride up to this thing, see this very expensive piece of equipment hooked up to this fender, and basically just stake it. And not only that, the anchor is so freaking heavy that, but basically what they ended up having to do once they kind of got to dock was get like emergency services, I guess, involved to, first of all, meet them there in order to, I guess, help them dock. I think that's, if I'm correct with that. And then they also had to, no, I'm incorrect. The emergency services had to bring people on or get people there in time to help fix the windlass, and which they did. Great. And then they had to also get people out to go fetch the anchor in order to then get it rigged back up and everything be good. So again, thank God the charter guests kind of handled this good. But I'm going to get to the docking in a minute, but they did get everything kind of done, able to hook the anchor back up, and everything is all good to go where that's concerned. Now, when we're docking, after all of this kerfuffle, Joe, for some reason, is really struggling to get the fenders dealt with. And in particular, was one bigger fender that he was told to deal with. And he's struggling to the point where it's taking so long for him to kind of get this done. And even Ian's like, hello, what's happening here? Like, why is this taking so long? And Sandy you kind of, old fish brain, but you kind of forget that she's had to kind of correct him quite a bit up until this point. That he's kind of making these kind of rookie mistakes, and she is kind of like, Nathan seems to be doing really well. Clearly he needs to take lead in this, whatever, right? So when she ends up talking to Ian about whether or not he has chosen a lead decky to deal with, obviously to deal with all this, he's like, well, yeah, I picked Joe because Joe is personable. Joe knows how to talk to people. Joe is whatever. But he's kind of focusing on, all of that's great. It's great that he's personable. But the thing is that, like, you're focusing on all the things that don't matter. You need someone who actually knows how to do their damn job. And I'm not saying he doesn't necessarily know how to do his damn job, but he seems to be struggling to do said damn job. So he's not the one, right? But I actually forgot about this, but this would have been episode 1, where he's picking a lead deckhand, and based on what? I don't know if he read their CVs or not, who knows, but you also need to evaluate the people who are underneath you and see kind of who fits where. And that's kind of what you see in Interior, that they don't usually rush to make a decision on who's going to be who's going to be second or third, right away. Even if it's like evident that this person is a third and this person is a second or whatever. It's not always evident who should be where, but you don't do that right away. But not only that, because technically Sandy is head of the deck crew, I think you still should run it, but I think they do. Interiors, whoever the chief stewards would still run that by Sandy, but I think it's just very different because they're not seeing in the same capacity as they do as the deck crew. But in particular, I have never seen a bosun pick a lead deckhand and not have that discussion with the captain first. Never have I seen that. And I haven't been watching Below Deck for very long. I think the first season I started off with was Med, and it would have been maybe 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. I have not been a part of this franchise for very long. But even with that being said, I have never ever seen a bosun pick a lead deckhand, and not run it by the captain. But he's here telling her this, and she's like, well, I wasn't aware of that. Could you maybe say that? Because she would have said something different, because she's seeing firsthand who has the experience and who doesn't, or who is at least doing their job with minimal mistakes and who isn't. And unfortunately, it's not Joe. So what do you do in that case? Do you go put your tail between your legs and say, sorry Joe, you're not it, we're gonna put Nathan as lead deckhand now? You know what I mean? It's very messed up. And the thing is for Ian, even though Captain Sandy is saying the experience isn't quite matching what you want as a lead deckhand, he still is like, well, he's my lead deckhand. And I'm just like, But again, I think a person like Ian, who seems to also lack his own experience or his own proper way of doing things, is not surprising that he would pick another person who doesn't really have their shit together either. Like, I'm not saying Joe is bad at his job. He's not. But he clearly struggles in certain things, and this being one of those things. But anyway. So, yeah, I think that that's kind of my thoughts on that part of it. Like I said, there's still so much to kind of go through here. But I think we'll, before we kind of transition, well, no, I'm going to do this first because I kind of want to do like Dag and then go back to the interior and kind of keep it ready because it's, again, so much going on. Now, the whole situation here with Gail and her very needy ass boyfriend is like, she deserves so much better than this. Because you have this guy literally being like, I'm so disappointed that I haven't heard from you. Like, I'm sorry I'm being so needy. I just feel like you're making me be needy. So we're going to make it about her. And listen. Number one, this guy clearly knows that he ain't it. And that fucking probably bothers the fuck out of him. But the thing that surprises me about this whole situation is these were two people who met on a boat. And yet, he doesn't seem to understand the realities of being on a boat. Now, I don't know who here who listens to Watch What Crappens, and if you heard the interview with Aesha that they ended up doing, which I absolutely loved. But so I highly recommend go listen. But you don't know, as a person who doesn't live in this world, that how we do things on this show is very different than what it is in reality. Usually you'll have people actually charter for, weeks at some times, not just mere few days. So maybe because of that it is a little more intense. But that being said, like, you still know the demands of the job to a certain extent, and he's just on her fucking ass, and it's fucking ridiculous. To the point where I was like, come on, my guy. Now, for me personally, I could never, because, I think one of my biggest turn-offs about, really in any situation, but obviously I'm a straight woman who is interested in men, nothing turns me off more than a man who's needy. And I've dealt with men being needy with me, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like, there's a certain, okay, I'll say this. Being needy, I should use the word clingy, being a stage 5 clinger. If you're a Jersey Shore fan, that's not a surprising term for me to use. If you're a stage 5 clinger, like, that part of it is what kind of, irks me a little bit. It's such a turn off for me. Nothing turns me off more. And usually if I ever noticed a stage 5 clinger like that, I would dump you in a heartbeat because I don't have the fucking patience, nor do I have the fucking time. I'm not a stage 5 clinger. I am not needy. I'm very much like a cat in many ways. I can be on my own. I love being on my own. I could do my own thing and I'd be happy. But then there's points in time where I want to be loved, and then I want you to go away. Like, that's, I'm independent and I'm able to do my own thing and not rely on my partner, and vice versa. But it's just like, nothing irks me more than that shit. It's not only that, it's fucking stressful. It's anxiety inducing, and it's not fucking fair to the other person, right? It's fucked up. No. No. Ain't no one got time for that shit. Like, it's just, no. But I understand for her that she wants to make this work because she feels like she has this obligation to him to make it work. I don't know. But I get her, but at the same time, it's like, this man isn't serving you. He's making matters worse for you. And it's not going to get better. And I love that Jono kind of talked to her and was kind of, obviously giving her advice, but also being kind of a little bit, trying to wake her up and be like, do you want to be with him? And she kind of is beating around the bush. She's like, no, that's not the question I asked. Do you want to be with him? And I don't think she does. And you know what? That's okay. You're only 6 months into this relationship, or whatever the fuck it was. You can get out of it. Save him, save yourself, and be done with it. Because this guy is too fucking much. You know what I mean? It's no. All of it, no. And I'm sorry, but like, if you're literally, he's texting you and begging for your attention, and you literally say to him, there's just a lot going on right now while you're still in bed. You know what I mean? Now, she deserves to have her own time. She deserves to be able to sleep on her break, or relax on her break. She doesn't need to deal with the headache. And I think at this point, she's probably not talking to him enough because she's over it, And once you're over it, it's really hard to come back from that. It's even harder to come back from that when you end up making out with your deck crew. So obviously there's been this thing kind of going on between her and Nathan, kind of jumping all over the place. There's kind of this thing obviously going on between her and Nathan. The whole strawberry of it all, I don't understand. But it did eventually get there, and they were making out, and it obviously caught on camera. And yeah, but the thing too is that she also feels bad about it, because she's someone's girlfriend, so she feels like she's obviously obligated to be faithful and whatever. And I totally understand all of that, and I'm not condoning infidelity in any form, but her fucking boyfriend is horrible. I would be like, deuces and be done. Like I said already, I do think Nathan's a great guy. I don't know how much I know if that would ever be anything, or if it would ever have any sort of longevity to it, but you never know. But what I do know, she needs to get rid of some baggage. That's her boyfriend. So yeah, so we'll kind of head over to the interior a little bit. Not a whole lot happened prior to docking, but the main thing here would be obviously the tension between Ellie and Bree. And I mean, Aesha is kind of like, obviously we're going to deal with this like when we dock, because she doesn't want to deal with it for that, but like, this meeting is going to happen because they need to have it. And I think that's what I was going to talk about actually, was the fact that the tip was $25,000 US, so that was really good. So I think that's what I was going to talk about, but it's a really good tip for kind of obviously being 3 hours late. But yeah, so let's go back to interior. So yeah, she's going to have this conversation with them. So once they've docked and they're talking about everything, the one thing that really bugs me about Ellie is, I remember what it is. There we go. It hit me. So sorry, before we go there, let's talk about this very quickly. What is the situation between Ian having this all of a sudden crush for Ellie? Like, it kind of feels like it came out of absolutely nowhere. And I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? Because this was never discussed prior. I feel like I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? So yeah, he thinks I have this crush on Ellie, but Ellie's like obviously not about it. And she's like, no, that's never gonna happen. Of course it's never gonna fucking happen. I could have told you that. Like, but yeah, it was weird. Anyways, So yeah, that was my transition into interior, was talking about that. But yes, they're having this conversation, and like I said, the thing that bugs me about Ellie is that, like, yes, on one hand, you can't let the words get to you, so gotta do your job, blah blah blah, and learn how to deal with it better, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day here though, you came to her, you're talking down to her, not because you think that she can't do the job, but because you know she made out with Joe, who you have a crush on, after you said it and she broke girl code and all this bullshit. It's allowed. You don't have stakes on him yet, you know? And that's the part that bothers me. It's kind of this, like, I don't even know if she's even fucking aware. I feel like she believes her bullshit, but it's like this kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. So I wouldn't necessarily say gaslighting. I wouldn't say this what was me attitude. I wouldn't say any of that. It's just complete delusion. That's it. It's just fucking delusional that she thinks that she doesn't have a hand in, like, any of this. You treated her like shit. That's, you know, and that's not okay. Or some fucking guy, get the fuck out of here. Like, it's no. But they do agree to kind of, you know, just let bygones be bygones at this point and move on and do the job, because that's what's important. They don't have to fucking like each other. It's gotta do the fucking job and be respectful to each other while doing it. But literally not even like that long later, when they're getting ready to go out, and I guess Bree was kind of just being a little more flustered. She's like, oh, where's my socks? Oh, where's my phone? Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. And she's kind of doing this while Ellie's getting ready and getting her hair done, or doing her hair. And she's like, okay, so how about we get ourselves together? And that's the kind of, the thing is, it's like, maybe she didn't mean anything by it. Maybe that's just how Ellie talks to people. Or maybe that's just Ellie being a bitch because she's still mad about shit. You know what I mean? I don't know. Ellie does have an air to her, but that's, I just don't know. But the one thing I will say is Ellie looked like a goddamn knockout. We'll get to that in a minute. So the other thing that I want to talk about before we kind of go into the night portion, we're going to kind of skip ahead a little bit and kind of talk about the laundry situation with Ellie. What the fuck? We're in Charter 4 almost, and my girl still hasn't come up with a system. She still hasn't, like, figured out, like, what she needs to do in order to make sure she's not mixing up things with other people's stuff, that she's not forgetting, you know, shirts for Sandy, you know, on certain times where Sandy doesn't need to be fucking dealing with this. She could be dealing with something else. Don't worry, we're gonna get to that in a minute too. I'm gonna wait till the end. And it's just like, my girl, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to come up with a system. If you need to number the fucking wash machines and the dryers so that you know, okay, I have Sandy's clothes, I have, just as an example, we have Sandy's clothes, we have Ian's clothes, and we have Gail's clothes. So I'm gonna, you know, it's 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna label the wash machines 1, 2, 3, the dryers 1, 2, 3. Okay, so those are the numbers, right? And then you go accordingly. You put Sandy's in 1 and this and that. Like you match up which number belongs to who, so that way you're not mixing shit up. Like, come up with a system, and she hasn't done that, and that's what's kind of irritating. But either way, Sandy's also getting irritated. Like, she's like, obviously I'm not gonna fire her because of laundry, but like, this is getting fucking ridiculous. Like, she goes down and she says, I'm missing some stuff, you know, Ellie's getting involved, helping her out, make sure she's not forgetting anything, and then she still forgets her white fucking shirt that she needs because we have a fucking charter coming soon and you have to greet them in your whites, and her whites aren't there. Like, absolutely ridiculous. And Sandy had to go back down and say, this is fucking ridiculous. I don't want to fucking keep doing this. I don't want to keep coming down here because my clothes are being lost. I'm dealing with, bullshit up here right now, which we'll get to in a second. And it's just like, what the fuck? I like Brie. She's green, she's trying. I totally get all of that, but this is fucking ridiculous. But, so yeah. That was kind of it for most of that. The other thing too is kind of you see kind of Brie kind of talking to Joe, and they're not, flirty, but also not. But also at the same time that they clearly have been, like, shit happened, so they gotta kind of deal with that. And she kind of says, you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube once it's been squeezed out. Yeah, that's true. But later on now, or technically before the laundry fiasco, we're out having fun doing this stuff, and there's obviously like the tension is felt when it comes to like Ellie, because she's still fucking complaining. And like I said, Ellie looks like a goddamn smoke show. She's wearing this crazy jumpsuit. It fits her like a fucking glove. She looks like Jessica Rabbit. If Jessica Rabbit wore a bodysuit and it was black, she looks fucking incredible. And so I'm gonna give her dues when it's deserved. Trust me, she looks fucking incredible. But she's like complaining all this, usual. And Aesha actually has a conversation with Joe and says, listen, you've created a lot of issues with my girls. There's a lot of tension between them, which obviously he's well aware of. And she says, can you please just leave my girls alone tonight? Let them kind of deal with, kind of let what happened just settle. And please leave my girls be for tonight. And he actually agrees to do that. However, he does talk to Brie. And it's this really weird conversation. I have a theory here, and actually I did have a conspiracy theory about something else that happened, but I can't remember what that was about now. But, oh yes, it was about the laundry. Sorry, quick detour so I don't forget. I wonder if Ellie was fucking with her on purpose to sabotage her. Just a theory. This is my theory. You don't have to agree with mine. But it just made me, things that make you think, So let's go back to Aesha and, well, technically now Joe and Brie. But so yeah, they're kind of talking. It was kind of this weird dynamic between them. But they're kind of like, I like you, and you like me, and we flirt, and there's this and there's that. But at the same time, like, should we even go there because of Ellie and all of this? Like, whatever. Or we, like, if you don't want to be pursuing me, that's okay. He's got to fucking, it's weird. So on one hand, I do think he has a thing for Ellie. I don't know how you couldn't. Ellie's gorgeous, but like, I do wonder now that the cat's out of the bag with Brie, if, like, I don't know, does he want to pursue that? I don't know. Brie obviously would, and not without any thought. But I also wonder if, like, I don't know. It was this very weird dynamic between them in this conversation. But yeah, I think that's kind of that for the night, because obviously we see kind of Gail and Nathan, which we already talked about. But the other thing that kind of happens, which would have been the next day, which we haven't yet talked about, is the dramas that is happening with the situations. First you have the anchor situation with the boat, and now we're dealing with wildfires. We're dealing with wildfires in Athens, and it's making its way closer and closer to where they're at. And the dilemma is that Sandy says, like, first of all, this coming to the realization is about 2.5 hours before the charter guests are arriving. And she's like, well, we obviously can't go anywhere. She's like, I have a thought to go out to sea and have them be tender to us. But she also says at the same time that she doesn't want to like leave the guests alone. What do you mean? Wasn't it on like regular below deck where she would have them be tendered there to have kind of the James Bond experience? You could just do that. The James Bond experience in Greece. And but yeah, she doesn't want to do that. And the thing is, like, they can't wait too long to get for the dog because it could end up screwing up the charter and for the guests because they'll have to be taken off the boat because due to the smoke and everything. So it's an absolute mess. And then not only that, we're now dealing with winds. Now the winds at around the 2-hour mark, I believe it was about 26 knots, 26, 28 knots, which is still windy, but you know, they probably could have gone out there. Who knows? But as time goes on, getting closer and closer to when the guests are arriving, it is getting worse and worse and worse with the winds. The fires are getting closer and closer. It's not. This is an absolute recipe for disaster. And when they get there, and you know all is kind of good, you're starting to see in the distance, in the kind of skyline, the fires are coming, the smoke is coming, to the point where like you can visibly see the smoke now where they're at the boat. And even though the wind has not really died down much, Sandy's like, listen, there's risks, you know, there's a risk of us staying here and then we'll have to deboat because of the smoke. There's also the risk of going out to sea and, you know, being in a dangerous situation from that. But it's a risk that she's willing to take because they need to get the fuck out of Dodge because of the fires, because they are literally on top of them at this point. And the issue is with this, I want to ask the fucking question, who the fuck? Because there is literally a boat in front of Sandy, in front of Mystique, and it's trapping them. There's a boat beside them. But she says I have to get as close to the other boat in front of them as she possibly can, and then have to basically like turn the boat and then turn it again and whatever. She gets as close to the other boat as she possibly can, and the problem is that the boat in front of her is too close. The boat beside her isn't. If it was like a few inches to the left, they could have gotten out, but she's boxed in, and the issue is the fires are fucking upon them. And the wind is windy. And they can't get the fuck out because they're not boxed in. And she says, if I hit either boat, the season is over. And we know how she feels about hitting things. Remember, she hit the dolphins. Was that last season? I can't remember if it was last season or the season before. But she hit the fucking dolphins. She's never hit a fucking thing in her career. That's not now hit a fucking boat. But that's basically where the episode ends, is with this boxed in situation. It's one thing after another. My goodness. Someone pissed off the gods of Olympus. Let me tell you. Zeus is unhappy. Okay? But anyways, that's basically it for this. There's a lot. Last episode that we did was very short, but this one definitely made up for it. Because this was definitely a jam-packed episode. But yeah, this was a good episode. I very much enjoyed it. But yeah, so you're probably going to you're going to get this before HEA or you're going to get HEA first. You'll probably get this first because editing is a little easier. A little bit behind the scenes a little bit for this episode. But then you'll get HEA, which will be in both last week and this past week's episodes, and then next we will be getting Toe to You, which I will explain Toe to You, how we're going to be doing that. because again, 3 weeks behind with that. We have 4 hours of Toe to go through, so we'll try to get that to you, and then we'll figure out the next, which will most likely be Bachelorette. But yeah, that's basically it for the episode, and that's it for. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.